I've got the story Amos and Boris by William Steig, and I'm going to show you exactly what questions you need to ask your kids when you're reading this book with them so that you're getting the most out of reading comprehension. The themes developed in this book are friendship across differences, unlikely pairs, contrasting traits, shared respect, reciprocity and gratitude, the idea of returning a favor to somebody, loyalty, facing the unknown, courage, and exploration. All right. This book is really adorable. This book has a lot of words. Okay, speaking of a lot of words, the first question is really a question throughout. Interpret words and phrases. Based on the context and information in the text, what do these words mean? In order, these words are navigation, necessities, savage, manage, well-suited, phosphorescent, luminous, vast, akin, mammal, loom up, privilege, leisure, admiration, delicacy, radiance, abounding, ambitions, account as in to tell a story, incident, occur, desperate, and some figurative language, breaded with sand. Okay, so this book uses some very sophisticated tier 2 words throughout. So at any point in the book when these words come up, it's a great opportunity to stop and ask your kid what these words mean, because there really are a lot of tier 2 vocabulary words in the book. Tier 2 vocabulary words simply means a word that is exceptionally descriptive. Exceptionally descriptive, precise, exact in its meaning. Okay, so that was the first question. Interpret words and phrases. Lots of words that occur inside this text. Next question, key details. What specific details tell us about Amos's spirit of adventure and exploration? Okay, key details. So this is where you can pick out exact evidence from the text that prove to us that Amos is adventurous and he likes to explore. All right, so piece of evidence number 1, he stares at the ocean and wonders about faraway places. 2, he started to build a boat. 3, he studied navigation. 4, he packed his boat with all of the supplies that he would need. And I think that's kind of it. So there's definitely like 3 or 4 specific pieces of evidence that show us that Boris is a mouse dedicated to adventure and exploration. All right, he sets sea. He sees the whales at night. He falls out of his boat and it starts to rain. So Boris, when he falls out of the boat and it starts to rain, Boris is literally thinking, I don't think I'm gonna make it out of this. I think I'm going to die here in the ocean. And it gets kind of deep right here where Boris is really contemplating what is gonna happen? What's it gonna feel like? Would it take long? Would it feel awful? Would his soul go to heaven? Would there be other mice in heaven? So Boris here in the ocean after he falls out of his boat is really in a very desperate situation. Next question, character development. What does Amos's behavior tell us about how he is feeling inside? So this is where we get to the theme of courage and facing the unknown, because Boris is really having to drum up, not that he really wants to do this, but he's having to drum up all of his possible courage in an effort to stay alive, because he is truly afraid that he is going to drown in the ocean. And he is truly wondering, what death will be like. It's kind of a serious part of the book here. And we also get to the theme of facing the unknown, kind of like the biggest unknown of all. So it kind of gets deep here when Amos is wandering in the ocean and he's worried he's not going to make it. But that is when Boris shows up, the whale. Next question, key details. What key details help us understand how surprised Boris and Amos are with each other? Okay, so this is where we're going to see the theme of friendship across differences, unlikely pairs and contrasting traits, and yet how much they respect each other and like are impressed by each other and like really become great friends even though they are extremely different. So first, Boris says that that Amos is a strange creature and that he is proud to help. So Boris the whale says that Amos the mouse is the strangest creature he has ever seen and that he is honored and proud to be able to say that he is helping this strange, rare creature that he's never seen. Amos says, "Are you sure you're a mammal?" Because Amos is the mouse and Amos and they're like trying to figure out what they are. And Boris says like, "Yes, I'm a mammal. Even though I'm in the ocean, I am a mammal." And Amos is like, "Wait a minute, but I'm a mammal." So Amos the mouse is like, "Are you sure you are a mammal? Because you smell like a fish." But kind of just like pointing out how surprised they are at literally like each other's existence and what the other one is. Boris is the mammal in the sea, and they recognize each other's uniqueness. So on these first 3 pages when they're meeting each other, more than anything, they are recognizing how unique the other one is and how surprised they are that the other one like kind of even exists. So getting into the themes of unlikely pairs, contrasting traits, friendship across differences, shared respect. All right. Few pages forward, now Amos is riding on Boris's back. Boris is going to rescue Amos. Next question, key details. What details tell us about how Amos and Boris are getting along really well? So there are several things that a kid can pick out, evidence they can pull right out from the text. Number 1, they're adapting to each other's needs. So when Boris needs to dive, he makes sure to tell Amos so that Amos isn't flung off into the ocean like mouse on a whale's back. Boris gives him a warning. It says they share secrets, so they talk very personally and very like deeply to each other. They compare life on land and the sea. They admire each other's physical presence. So Amos, they both talk about how like just impressed they are that this is, what does he say? Boris admired the delicacy, the quivering daintiness, the light touch, the small voice, the gem-like radiance of the mouse, and Amos admired the bulk, the grandeur, the power, the purpose, and the rich voice and the abounding friendliness of the whale. So they literally admire each other's existence and very presence, even though they could not be more different. Okay, so Boris arrives at the land, Amos jumps off, and they're like, "We're never gonna see each other again. We're best friends, but I live on the land, you live in the ocean. We're literally never gonna see each other again." So they say their goodbyes. Except Boris is like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll need you one day." And Amos is like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "What am I gonna possibly do for you? I am a mouse. How could I possibly ever repay you, a gigantic whale, for what you have done?" So they part their ways, but one day Boris, after a storm, is beached on a shore, and Amos comes and he says like, "I'm gonna help you." And then he runs away into the woods, and Boris is like, "Oh, he just said that to make me feel better, but like, what could he possibly do for me? I'm a gigantic whale, he's a teeny tiny mouse, and I am beached on this beach. How is he gonna help me?" But he gets elephants, and the elephants push him back into the sea. So in the end, Amos is able to repay Boris's, for when Boris saved his life, now Amos has saved his life. Okay, last question. Yeah, central idea. What do Amos and Boris learn over the course of this story? Okay, first of all, what we just got to at the end was loyalty, returning a favor, like reciprocity. Amos had no idea how he was going to be able to repay the favor to his friend Boris the whale for saving his life. He was like, yeah, sure, one day. But in the back of his mind, he's like, there's no way. How can I repay that? I'm a teeny mouse and he's a giant whale. And even when Boris was washed up on the shore and Amos says like, I got you, I'm gonna save you, Boris in his mind was like, he just said that to make me feel better. Like, this is it. Like, there's no way he's gonna be able to help me get back into the water. But Amos got the elephants and the elephants pushed him back into the water. So you never know how you'll be able to repay someone, how you'll be able to return a favor with a loyal friend. And other themes that we learn are friendship across differences, unlikely pairs, contrasting traits. So throughout their friendship, they are always impressed with how different they are from each other, and yet they are the absolute best friends. So those are the two big lessons. Like, you could be extremely different from a person, and you can't underestimate how close of friends you might become. And it could seem extremely unlikely that you would ever be able to pay back the favor of, a friend who does a favor for you. But you just never know. You might be able to pay back a favor, even it seems like an impossible task. It just might happen. And that is Amos and Boris by William Steig.